Anything else? Okay. Greetings, Earthlings and Frag Commies. My name is Luke. I am Poe. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We're still talking fragrances, but we're just gonna kind of go a different route, different direction. Pull out the GPS. Where are we going? I don't really know. We'll find out. I kind of make this stuff up as I go, which is true. I generally have a rough outline of what I'm gonna do in my head, being notes or performance or comparisons. But as far as the bits go in this, it's all kind of organic, and it just kind of arises from whatever foolishness comes to mind in front of the screen, in front of this camera. This is a video that I have been planning on making ever since I started my channel, though I quite frankly haven't known how to go about it, / I've been really anxious and scared to make it. And that's what it feels to be vulnerable. And vulnerable is a great concept until it's time to be vulnerable. But you can't be a courageous person without vulnerability. I think a lot of us aspire to be courageous. You know, we look at these people who do courageous acts, or they're so brave, and we think that's admirable, and we wish that we could be like them. But then when it comes to time to being vulnerable in front of an audience, no thanks. I get it. It's hard for me too. A friend recently called me an inspiration, and it's not a kind of friend that would say that sarcastically. I have never even thought of myself as an inspiration. I said so as much as to my wife, and she kind of pointed out the past year that I've had. I didn't know it until recently, within the past year or so, but I've been struggling with depression and anxiety my entire life. And looking back on it, it makes a lot of sense. But growing up, you just think this is what everyone goes through. This is normal. You have no other frame of reference. And when my daughter was born last September, the perennial fit hit the shan, as they say. And that was when I kind of experienced unconditional love for the first time. It was for this baby human that I didn't know anything about, and yet I had an overwhelming sense of love for this thing that, allegedly was mine, but we haven't done the DNA test. Enough jokes about that. I was wearing this guy, Creed Green Irish Tweed. This covers a lot of different scenarios. You can wear it casually, you can wear it formally. A bright green citrusy opening in one of the best dry downs in men's perfumery. I will fight you on this. And if you haven't worn Green Irish Tweed before, the feeling it gives me is this feeling of $1 million. Like I'm a polished gentleman. Like I have all my stuff put together. But it became apparent when I was wearing Creed Green Irish Tweed in the hospital that I did not have all my stuff together. And rarely do any of us really have our stuff together, and that's okay. But at this point in my life, I was thinking, I'm a dad now. I need to have everything together. And I don't know why I'm feeling all of these feelings that I haven't felt since childhood. I was raised in a home where my love growing up and acceptance was very conditional. If I acted a certain way, if I did certain things, if I got certain grades, then I would be loved and accepted. Really, that's just performing. That's just being something for someone else, for a certain reaction. And we didn't live in a family where we vocalized feelings, or we vocalized what we needed, or we vocalized what we wanted. It was almost growing up if it was better if you were just seen and not heard. After I graduated college, I got a job in local TV. I was a journalism major. I was a sports anchor and reporter. And then shortly after that, I got into radio. And it was just more performing, more reaching out to people, more trying to be what other people wanted me to be. And then it was stand-up comedy. And throughout all of that, it was trying to fit these different characters of who people wanted me to be, but I wasn't necessarily fulfilling who I was. I wasn't necessarily loving who I was. And throughout all those years of my early to mid-20s, I was wearing a lot of this. This is Burberry Brit for him. It is a lovely powdery rose. This one is a really good formal scent in my opinion. I think if you are suited and booted, this one is going to really shine on you. And I did wear a lot of suits when I was in TV. I was dressed up quite a bit when I was on stage for comedy. Before every show, I would get the worst anxiety. I mean, bordering on anxiety attacks, you know, with the breathing, feeling like your heart's going to explode, feeling like you're going to die. But then once you get out on stage and you're making this room full of strangers laugh with your own words and your own thoughts, it is the greatest high I've ever had. Typically, I'm a pretty healthy guy. I don't really call in sick, but then there would be sometimes I would just be like, wow, I cannot get out of bed. I feel down in the dumps. Why is this happening? And I didn't really figure that I had depression. When my daughter was born, I was simultaneously overwhelmingly happy and overwhelmingly not myself. Something was wrong. I didn't know what. And the depression came, but instead of this being like a storm that came on shore for a day or two, this was a storm that just parked itself and said, we're not going anywhere. And during this time, I absolutely wanted to get off this ride. This ride meaning whatever, this giant space ball in space with our rubber suits on. I wanted the ride to be over. I was done. And told my wife that was the hardest conversation we've ever had. You tell your wife that you're having suicidal ideations a month after you have your first child together. Not a fun conversation to have. But she was very understanding, and she was my rock in the time when I was lost, and we got help. The help originally, actually, the first two therapists, really not great. And I think this is something that needs to be talked about more, is that finding a good therapist is kind of like dating. And the first two didn't work out. I'm trying out different medications, and I'm trying to spill my guts out as a person that's not used to vocalizing how they're feeling and not being vulnerable. And by the time I got to the third, I was at the end of my rope. I was still having suicidal ideations. The antidepressants that I was being assigned in the different doses just wasn't working. And this guy that was my therapist was around my age, fairly young, and I'm just like, okay, this is it. Like, I am trying to do everything within my power to get better and to get to a mentally safe space. And this is what the world wants. The world does not want me to succeed. The world wants me to just go lights out. But it did get better. He diagnosed me with PTSD, with borderline personality disorder, of course, anxiety and depression. And at first, I was like, no, bro. I've been a comedian, and I've been on TV and radio. I do not have trauma that soldiers and police officers have. Like, those are the heroes, right? But PTSD can happen to anyone. Especially if you grow up with physical, verbal abuse, sexual abuse. I was an athlete in high school. I played football, basketball, baseball. I have a lot of these various sports injuries that kind of rear their heads sometimes, but that doesn't define me. I don't shake your hand and say, hi, I'm Luke. I've got bad knees and a bad back. How are you? I don't introduce myself to someone and say, I'm Luke. I've got PTSD and BPD. How are you? That doesn't define who I am. It's just a part of me. Therapy also just kind of gave me permission to forgive myself and to let myself off the hook. Throughout these years, that negative self-talk of you're not good enough, they don't like you, do more. Why are you sitting and taking a day off? You could be doing more. You need to be doing more. Sometimes you just gotta be okay with accepting that today's not your day. And you gotta be accepting that you can't do everything. And what you can do, be proud of it. This reminds me of Prada Amber Pour Homme. It's not the most masculine scent. It's pretty linear. It just smells like a really nice, high-quality soap. Sometimes you just want to feel pampered. Sometimes you just want to feel relaxed. and let yourself off the hook. Sometimes you just need a day. So to the guy out there that sent me that handwritten note about me being an inspiration, it took me a while to realize that you're right and that I do need to be proud of my accomplishments. And this episode of Lucas Poe is dedicated to you, and you know who you are. Because the best way to love this little girl and the best way to love her mother and my wife is to love myself and to accept myself and to accept the journey I've been on and the journey that I'm still going to go on. The journey that lies ahead. So just know that you are loved. You are respected. You see yourself on camera. Is that so much fun? And that no matter what comes your way, you're not alone. I think that's the worst thing about depression and these mental illnesses is it makes us feel so isolated. I know that's how it made me feel too. And so from Lenore to Lucas Poe, we are signing off, Frag Commies. That's it for us today. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Give it the old thumbs up. Write down in the comments below how cute you think Lenore is or how awful you think I am. We'll respond to you no matter what, won't we, Lenore?